Authors Over 50, Writing in Life's Sweetest Third. Authors Over 50's weekly podcast celebrates writers and their journeys to publication. Writing after 50 is a whole story on its own, so let's skip to life's sweetest third and talk with authors about their journey from pen to publish. Welcome. I'm Julia Daly, your host, and I invite you to listen to interviews with writers who've achieved their goal of publishing a book just later in life. We've seen award lists for under 30 or under 40, but I've yet to see lists for those who've achieved a significant milestone of their own, launching a new career and publishing their first book after the age of 50. We will hear about these authors' inspirations, struggles, strategies, and the smell of that first book. These writers' journeys inspire me because I'm one of them. My guest today is a native New Yorker who identifies as a late bloomer, a highly sensitive introvert, and a proud mama bear to 2 children. An occupational therapist, she received honors for essays before writing a book. Her debut, Late Bloomer, Finding My Authentic Self at Midlife, launches in August 2023. She is living her authentic life with her partner and their 2 cats. They split their time between New Jersey and Provincetown, Massachusetts. Welcome to Authors Over 50, Melissa Giberson.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Melissa, our opening question on Authors Over 50 is always, what took you so long to write your first book?
Well, I consider myself an accidental author, and I love writing. I've always loved writing, but I didn't set out to write a book. During the pandemic, I reached out to Brooke Warner about stories I had written at the beginning of my journey and asked if she thought anybody would be interested, or should I just put them back into the closet, so to speak, no pun intended. And she said she'd be happy. She'd love to hear my stories. And we started working together to put some meaning to them. And then before you know it, it started shaping up into a book. And, you know, that's how it grew. It was kind of accidental. I was just looking to see if they had any worth to anybody other than myself. Prior to that, I am an occupational therapist, as you said. So I've been working literally hands-on. I treat people who've had injuries, surgeries, and I have 2 kids. So they've kept me very, very busy. No time to write when you're taking kids one place to another. And sometimes that overlaps and you have to be a little bit of a magician.
And Brooke Warner is the publisher of She Writes Press,
Yes.
A hybrid press, and they do a lot of memoirs. I think that's their specialty.
Yes. Brooke is considered a specialist in the genre of memoirs. Yes.
Well, we would all like to be living authentic lives. How did you discover your path to yours?
Well, I had in terms of what my story is about, that was also sort of accidental. I had met somebody and didn't think that much of it, just knew that I felt differently. And as time went on, I didn't give it a whole lot of thought until there was an incident that months later that caused me to ask myself that first burning question that I start the book with. And I asked myself if I was gay. And from there, I reached out for help. And, it just sort of traveled along there. People started showing up for me who had also had the same experience. And little by little, things started to come together. But it was a tough journey until you reach a point where you just sort of exhale and realize you've landed on the other side.
Why do you think it takes some of us until midlife to live authentic lives? And it doesn't just have to be discovering whether, you're gay or not. It can be in so many other ways as well.
Absolutely. I think that one of the special things about reaching midlife is the accumulation of wisdom and time. And we have done all of those things that we were air quote, expected to do. We married, we had kids, or we started a career, or any combination of that. And by the time we start looking at ourselves, because our kids are more independent, we've reached a certain plateau in our career. We might be empty nesters or preparing to be an empty nester. And we start looking at who we are, and are we living the way we want to be living, according to our personal values, as opposed to the values we were sort of told. We're brought into this world and we're given a set of values, but along the way, we have to decide if those are actually our values. So I think it happens at midlife because so many other things have also happened. And we're a little bit more mature and a lot more wiser.
I hope that's true. What is the most challenging part for you of this artistic journey?
Well, in terms of writing, the most challenging part is being patient. And when I'm working on a piece or an essay, it's really good for me to take some time away from it and revisit it with fresh eyes. But I'm also a person that loves to be immersed in it. So I find it very challenging to set it down intentionally, step away for a day, a week, or more, and then revisit it again. So that's the challenging part for me, is knowing I need to walk away from my baby and revisit it on the other side.
Well, memoir can certainly bring up touchy subjects in families, and sometimes families are not very accepting of our getting our stories on paper and exposing family secrets or our own secrets, and how that affects everyone else, not just your story, but theirs. Have you found that to be the case in your own family?
Yeah, I have to say, I have been very, very fortunate that my family has been extremely supportive of me. I've been very cautious to make sure that I respect that they are part of my story, especially my children. And they knew, what was happening, and they were given the opportunity to read the book, while there was an opportunity to make changes if they had asked for that. But my mom has always been very, very supportive. She also read the book, and the kids had the opportunity. So I'm just so grateful that I have not had the experience that I know other people have had, where they've gotten some pushback from people about their story.
Well, we writers like to write. We don't like to promote ourselves. Have you found any publicity that's worked for you pre-launch? Because you don't launch actually for another month. This is July of 2023 for those listeners who are listening later, and her book will be out in August of 2023. So have you been working pre-launch on any publicity that you hope is going to work for the book?
I have, and I've been very fortunate to have some very good people with me that are helping me. We rely on social media a lot. I have been writing, trying to get some essays published. I've been speaking to people like yourself who support authors like me. And I'm going out into the community, networking, meeting other writers, and loving it. It's just such a special community of this writing community. I have found nothing but support from other writers. So I've been, yes, very, very busy growing and networking and trying to help other authors do the same thing as they have been helping me.
Well, you should be a step ahead because you wrote many essays, many award-winning essays, and our publicists seem to ask us pre-launch to write a lot of essays.
Yes, this is true. I mean, the good thing is I love to write. So it's a great exercise for me. And writing is one of those things that the more you do, the more you learn, the better you get, the more comfortable you are with it. So I do enjoy doing that. It doesn't feel like a challenge or a task. The challenge is parting with it, when deadline it comes up, that's the challenge for me is parting with it when I know I could keep looking at it and molding it like clay. It becomes very meditative. You keep revisiting it and molding it, but at some point you have to let it go.
Well, you mentioned allowing your children and maybe others to read your manuscript and to offer any changes. Was there anything that you edited out of the book that hit the cutting room floor?
There were some things that did absolutely hit the editing room floor for any number of reasons. Some of them from my own because they just weren't necessary anymore. There were a lot of stories that got edited out, some about my ex. And the process of writing this book for me was very healing. And I found that I just didn't need those stories anymore. And as I grew and as I healed, I realized they weren't necessary. Other stories were, as much as I enjoyed stories about my kids, they didn't fit the shape of the book. And some other stories will make their way into essays. And they were about my kind of fun experiences out in the community early on. And there's a limit, there's a container for a book. And so those fell out of the container, but they will definitely make their way into some essays along the way because they're funny stories.
Well, you're very kind to drop those stories about your ex. I'm thinking of writing a thriller and killing mine off in the thriller.
I look forward to reading that one.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about the passages you've brought to share today and then read from it so we can hear your tone and voice in your book?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to be reading from the beginning. This is a late bloomer. I stand there, frozen, as if the sight of a naked woman is something I've never seen before. I'm captivated by the smoothness of her bare skin, her curves. I watch as her hands glide down from knee to ankle and back up again. She's methodical, painting her flesh with lotion, leaving no part of the canvas untouched. I'm stone still when a thought surfaces, that is, at least to my conscious mind, a first. It's a question that will ultimately usher me across a threshold and into a journey of self-discovery. Am I gay? And that's how the book begins.
Wow, that is very capturing of our attention.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that. And I think that, those opening pages are so important. If somebody just flips to that in a bookstore and reads, they want to know more. And so many people have so much backstory in those opening pages that, it doesn't intrigue us, but that passage certainly does.
Thank you. Thank you.
How long do you think it took you to write your book?
Took a few years. I had taken those early stories, as I had mentioned, and started working with Brooke, but it took a couple of years by the time we started shaping stories, adding to it, and then, of course, the healing work. What do they mean? And then going backwards to make those connections, why the journey was as complicated for me as it was. So over the course of time, it probably took a few years.
I hear so many people, especially those of you who are writing memoir, that it is a healing process, that it's like having therapy when you get all of your emotions and memories down on paper.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a great, it's very therapeutic. And to start making those connections, why did this happen when you're on the other side of it? It's very challenging to do when you're in the middle of it. You can't heal while you're still being wounded. So you have to be on the other side of something in my opinion, to look back and try to make sense of it and follow the trail could be from childhood, it could be from something else, but there's always a trail somewhere. So if we follow the trail, things start to make sense if we do the work.
Well, do you have another book in you?
Oh, I absolutely hope so. I really do love writing, and I certainly hope to continue to do it. And if that means another book as opposed to just essays, absolutely. I'm thoroughly enjoying this journey, this new journey of mine.
Well, I always want to know, how writing the first book changes your process of writing, if it does. A lot of us think that we got quicker in the process, after we learned the craft. Because I was in public relations and marketing all my life, and I had written, essays and press releases and speeches for presidents of colleges, but putting something down on paper as fiction is a whole different ball game. So I had to take a lot of classes and go to a lot of writing retreats and conferences and learn that craft. So I'm hoping that every book after that would be, quicker to write.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done the same since I came from a science background. When I sort of fell into writing, I had to learn the craft at the same time. And fortunately, working with Brooke Warner certainly helps. She offers classes. There are podcasts, there are webinars, and there are books that I made sure to read along the way. And then when I was able to, I would do online workshops and in-person workshops, which I loved, and I will continue to do that. But yes, learning craft as you're doing it, is an interesting process, but you're always just sharpening your tools that way.
And I never even knew what Zoom was until the pandemic. And now we can Zoom into people's living rooms all around the country for book clubs, and we can take many courses that way. So it really has made the community even smaller. And of course, our writing community, as you mentioned, is just such a generous one. We're all willing to share our journey and what worked for us and what didn't work.
Yes. Yeah. I've definitely taken advantage of Zoom as well, and have enjoyed doing these online workshops and these classes, whether they are just one and done or they last for a little while longer, a series of them over the course of a few days. But they've been a great gift for me.
Do you try to keep a certain writing routine? Do you write every day?
I like to because I enjoy it. I'm always writing in my head, and I'm a binge writer when I get to sit down and take those thoughts and take those post-its that I've been making notes on and make something out of them, make them grow into an essay, and build it up. But I really do believe I'm always writing. Wherever I am, I'm paying attention to what's around me. I will carry paper and pen or send myself emails. But when I get to sit down and actually do something with it, I really like binge writing hours at a time, days at a time. I've gone on sabbatical for weeks at a time to immerse myself in writing, but I don't have a set routine.
Well, I know that with She Writes Press, you have a strong community of writer friends and Facebook groups that y'all stay in touch, and I'm sure that has to be very empowering.
It's been fantastic. I've made a lot of friends in this community, both people that are new here, like myself. So it's nice to know that you're rowing your boat, in sometimes choppy seas, and there's other people validating your experience. And I've also had the opportunity to become friendly with more experienced, more seasoned authors and learn from them and be supported by them as well. So I've had actually the best of both worlds. I'm very grateful to have had this experience, especially with She Writes Press. I can't speak for other because I haven't been part of it, but the She Writes Press experience has really been a bonus for me.
Are there any specific books or seminars or writing retreats or groups other than She Writes that have improved your writing journey?
I've attended a number of them that have been, in my opinion, game changers, just because they've had so many quality authors there. I've been able to meet people. I went to Santa Fe in December with Story Summit, and that was just incredible. There was such a wonderful turnout. It was strictly for women. And just to be in this place over the course of a few days with all of these women who were both new and experienced was remarkable, and made a lot of friendships from that. Milford, Pennsylvania does one that I had gone to. I recently went to Martha Frankel's Woodstock Literary Festival, and that was terrific. And Provincetown has a library fest every year that I like to attend. So large and small, I try to go to what I can, where I can. And each one of them has been rewarding for me.
Well, when you read, when you have time in your busy schedule to actually read, is memoir your favorite genre, or do you read other genres?
I am at the moment, I am very much drawn to memoir. I find myself reading an awful lot from other people because I'm fascinated by people's stories and the courage that it takes for them to write them down. And I know, having written one, the process of healing, the courage, the struggle. So I have a great deal of admiration for somebody that's going to take that time or take that risk. And so I do enjoy reading other people's stories. Yes. So memoir is my number one right now.
Well, I started out, and I still love women's fiction. That's pretty much my genre. But I have gotten into psychological thrillers, and they keep me riding my bike a lot farther when I am reading and have to find out what happens.
Another fix. There you go. Excellent.
What do you think was the best money you ever spent as a writer?
The best money, I think, has been the retreats. They have definitely rewarded me many times over. So if I invested in going to, for example, Santa Fe, where I had to get on a plane and pay for not just the retreat, but the hotel. But I came away with having made such good friends and connections and learning an awful lot. And just meeting, New York Times bestselling authors who are just the most amazing, down-to-earth people who have a lot to teach, and I have a lot to learn. So that was a really great investment.
I agree. I love writing retreats because a lot of them you can take classes in the morning and then lunch with everyone there, and then in the afternoon you can squirrel yourself away and write. I've gotten so much work done at those writing retreats, and you don't have to worry about preparing meals or walking the dogs or doing anything like that in your normal routine. It really gets you into that zone and keeps you there.
Exactly. Yes, you're immersed in it and you can't help but be inspired. I agree with you 100%.
What does writing success look like to you personally?
Writing success to me is anytime somebody says to me, I was really moved by something you wrote. And, when I can have an impact on somebody, whether it was a speech and somebody came up to me afterwards and I made them cry, I made them think, I made them feel. I've had people say something that I have written, they carry in their phone. I won't delete this. I look at it. Somebody else says, I read your essay over and over and over again, that they still find something that resonates in it or that moves them. To me, that's success. If I can touch one other person with something that I have written, then I've been successful.
It is such an honor, when a stranger picks up your book and they are so moved by it that they reach out to you. I think that's just the best thing ever. They're not your family, they're not your friends that have to say, how wonderful your book is, but they're a complete stranger. And so many people have reached out to me from the adoption community about my first book. And I've heard from other adoptees, adoptive parents, birth parents, and it's just been an amazing experience.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you launch that baby into the world in a month, you're going to get even more of those people reaching out to you, and it's going to really bring so much enjoyment to your life.
I hope so. My hope for this book, I call it my pay it forward book. And at the beginning of my journey, strangers who had their own lives and their own families and their own careers, they took the time to respond to a stranger that was reaching out for help, who didn't know what was happening, where to go, where to turn. And they took that time. And so if my book ends up, as I hope it does, in the hands of some other person who's at the beginning of their journey and they need to reach out or want to reach out, I hope that they do. Or even somebody who's on the other side of the journey who reaches back and says, wow, I remember that, this is so validating. Because a couple of people that have read my book have done that as well. To go back and remember where they were, and they are reminded of how far they've come. So that feels very good as well.
So this book really came from a lot of stories that you just pieced together, and memories that you had. Did you have to go back and do any research? Because I had to stop and think, what year was that? And what was the song that year? And what were the fashions that year? Did you have to try to really validate your memories? Because we all have such different perspectives growing up, and what years and all of those facts, in a family.
Yes. For me, though, I had been in touch with these people that had showed up for me. And there was a lot of email exchanges. So I had all of those emails. I had all of the texts, and they're time stamped. So I had a nice timeline. My journey also started when I was planning my daughter's bat mitzvah. So there's a big timestamp there. And then the emails help, the texts help. And then the book follows a lot of the milestones of my children, where they were. So the bat mitzvah, high school, we were shopping for colleges, my son's bar mitzvah. So along the way, it made it easy to know where things had taken place, because they were so embedded in life. Everything that was happening. And then I rely on my scrapbooks. So I did a lot of scrapbooking for the kids, and I just need to go back. And, if I had to jog a memory for some reason, it was right there. It was right there for me. I just had to put it all together and then dig down deep into what it meant.
Does writing memoir energize or exhaust you?
Oh, it energizes me. No question. It inspires me. It energizes me. I love when things make sense, when things click. I don't like chaos. So if I can make sense of something, and memoir will do that, you will make sense of what felt like chaos. And I'm energized by that. I'm empowered by that. I love it.
Well, Melissa, as always, our last interview question is, our writers over 50 are quite unique. Do you have advice for writers 50 and above?
Do it. As I said, I think with age, we have wisdom and experience that we need to share. We're all better for sharing our stories and learning from one another. So if anybody has that itch to write, I absolutely would encourage them to do it. Just by virtue of reaching this point in our life, we have something to offer. So I encourage people to do it. Absolutely.
Well, I certainly applaud you and all others who are writing memoir, who are brave enough to put your actual experiences down on paper. I kind of couch mine and run memoir through my fiction, but I haven't done the memoir route yet, and maybe I will one day, because you always inspire me when she writes authors come on the podcast and tell about their impressive journeys and how we all have reached this point in our lives and have so much to say. I'm interviewing people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're still writing beautiful work. So I think we can do it the rest of our lives. And we just are so happy that you were here with us today to share your experience. And we're happy to now count you among our authors over 50.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Please look for Authors Over 50 every Thursday, when we will have conversations with accomplished debut novelists over the age of 50. Please subscribe and share with a friend. And check out my own publication journey after 50 at www.juliadaily, that's DAILY, like dailynewspaper.com. Until next time, keep reading and writing. And remember, it's never too late to fulfill a dream in life's sweetest third.